In a world where women's sports is being transformed, the Daily Wire calls foul with the most triggering comedy of the year.
Well, those are the first few seconds of a trailer for a new Daily Wire feature-length film titled Lady Ballers, which will be released this Friday on Daily Wire Plus. So they've really gotten into this film content business. We've talked about some of the other stuff they've produced in the past. And in case you were wondering, yes, the rest of the trailer is just like that. And if you're thinking the film could maybe be less appealing than what you've already seen, then wait until you see all the cameos, which we'll also get to. And look, the message here is mostly, as you can see from what you already experienced, it's about dunking on the trans community. It's about triggering the libs. It's not really, look, this is the problem I have with it, right? It takes an issue that I personally think there should be honest conversation about, and that has to do with transgender women in women's sports, okay? And it makes a joke out of it. And it makes it difficult for honest actors who want to engage in this conversation, not from a place of hate, not from a place of discrimination toward the trans community. It makes it harder for them to do it because the second they have concerns and want to talk about these things, you get lumped in with the Daily Wire people who just engage in this rhetoric to dunk on transgender people. You get what I'm saying? And it bothers me a lot. So with that said, let's play a bit more of the trailer so you can see the plot of the movie. And we'll get into some more details about what they're doing and what this all means.
A guy can become a girl with no physical changes at all.
Oh, that's called gender fluid.
So I can be a woman on the court and a man in the bedroom. I can't believe it. Nice.
You mean when you're sleeping?
Yes.
Coach,
Alex,
we could play basketball.
we have to get the whole team back together.
It's time
We're in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
to play
Lady Ballers. Mount up.
like a girl.
That's what I'm with her. This is my truth.
We could dominate every woman's sport. Running, swimming, soccer. I said sport, Felix. It's ladies basketball, boys. Nobody watches.
It's a comedy, so hopefully there's actual comedy in it at some point, but we didn't see it in the trailer.
No, it was. I thought the soccer joke was really funny because like they don't like soccer.
Right.
Lots of other people like soccer. They don't think that soccer's a real sport, and that's a new point to make.
I mean, have you seen those soccer players' bodies? It looks like a real sport to me.
I'm sure they have seen those. Yeah, that was just. Oh God, like leaving aside all of the political stuff, which I'm sure we're gonna like focus on or whatever, like the reason they're doing this. Either their internal hatred, as you pointed out, they are small-minded and ignorant and scared and all of that. But the political motivation of doing this, as we've pointed out many times, the reason they're focusing so much on this is because all of them are being paid by billionaires. They work at the behest of the elites in society, and they want all poor conservatives to vote for politicians that will demonize trans people, try to drive them into the shadows or annihilate them outright, while keeping taxes low and passing legislation that benefits people who aren't in that group. That's why they do it, it's sad. But artistically, as a person who, I produce stories, I understand the impulse to want to create things, and as you're going to point out, almost every one of these right-wing commentators at one point desperately wanted to be accepted by Hollywood. They all wanted to be artistic types, creative types, and they weren't accepted. And some of you might have been wondering this whole time why that is. Well, you just saw. That's not good. That's not funny. It's not interesting.
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
just
look,
sad.
there's a specific target audience for that content. We're not in that audience, right?
But do you think that audience is gonna watch that trailer and be like, ha, yeah, soccer?
Yeah, I do.
There's still like there is like regressive comedy.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're all equally talented. Some are way better than others. Like you can just tell a misogynistic joke. That doesn't mean you're gonna be a good comedian.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Look, I'm still stuck on the fact that they were talking about sex in front of a kid. I mean, aren't they like banning books about sexual content from elementary schools because it's inappropriate for kids? Like,
either the actor or the writer are clearly predators. That's what we've learned.
Are they grooming children? Oh my God, it's caught on tape. No, look. I think there is something to be said about what these individuals wanted to previously do with their careers, how it didn't work out, and now they're going in this direction. I don't know how successful this film is gonna be. I have no idea. What I do know is that they've decided to latch on to an issue that we should be able to have honest conversations about. They're not interested in an honest conversation. They're turning this into a comedy. They're turning this into something to trigger people. It's a dunk fest. And that's what annoys me about it, aside from, and I should say in addition to, just like the dehumanizing nature of all of it. And I don't know, I've become more and more of a softie in that even when it comes to people I disagree with, like I see their humanity and I see what motivates and drives them. And I think overall, most people are good. And when you make a good faith effort to understand people, you just have a better view of the world around you. And it just makes you more connected to the environment around you, the people around you. And I just think it's unfair that they don't really seem to have any interest in really understanding the topic that they like to fearmonger so much about.
It's not what they're paid for.
I know, it's depressing.
You really fast, you mentioned you don't know how successful the movie's gonna be, but like at the end of the day, I think it's far more important to point out that it doesn't need to be successful because they are not creating this art to try to succeed with it. They're being paid to try to influence society for political ideological goals. This is not Hollywood. They're not just trying to we gotta make the best thing that lots of people are gonna like. That it could totally fail. It could sell no tickets. I don't even know if it's gonna be in theaters. It could make no money. It doesn't matter. Billionaires are still gonna give them money because it's not about the quality of the art. It's believed that this is gonna be successful in pursuing their ideological goals.
I think it's hilarious that they decided to cast Ted Cruz in this, right? Like Ted Cruz is in this. In fact, why don't we take a look?
You need someone with charisma in your movie, obviously.
Okay, let's go to the next clip. You'll see what I'm talking about.
My lover says you were a great coach back in the day.
Excuse me, are these seats open? Never mind.
That's the biggest I've ever seen on a lady.
I don't care.
Did we edit that or is that actually like how they edited their trailer? What is that? I don't even know what that's supposed to be.
It might be spliced together from the trailer overall. Yeah, it was spliced together from the trailer overall.
It's okay. It's Ben Shapiro and you got Ted Cruz. There's some people that for some reason think that they're interesting, I guess.
Look, I wanna move on to why I think it is important to have honest conversations about this issue, right? Because what they're trying to attack is the inclusion of transgender women in women's sports, right? That is what they're trying to attack here. And while we live in a bubble and we're under the assumption that most people are actually totally supportive of the notion that trans women should be included, that's actually not the case according to the polling, which is why I think this is an issue that honest, good faith people need to talk about to come up with solutions that are fair to everyone, right? Fair to transgender women, fair to women, right? Because there are anatomical differences, let's keep it real. That doesn't mean that you should be hateful or exclude transgender women or treat them poorly. It just means, okay, what's the right solution so everyone feels represented, everyone feels it's fair, right? So let's go to the polling. And sorry to turn a story where we're supposed to just dunk on them into something a little more serious, but I think it is a serious issue. We're talking about human beings, okay?
I wouldn't worry, they dunked on themselves with the trailer.
True. Okay, so regardless of whether or not you think it should be legal, this is a poll that was done by Gallup, and it was in June of this year. Regardless of whether or not you think it should be legal, please tell me whether you personally believe that in general, it is morally acceptable or morally wrong to change one's gender. So 55% of Americans still find it morally wrong.
Okay.
Which I was actually surprised by that. I'm actually gonna go to a previous graphic. Let's go to graphic 1. Do you think transgender athletes should be able to play on sports teams that match their current gender identity, or should only be allowed to play on sports teams that match their birth gender? Only 26% say that they should be able to play on teams that match identity. 69% only on teams that match birth gender, and 5% had no opinion. So like, the reason why I brought up my curiosity in regard to whether that kind of film is gonna be successful is because unfortunately, the majority of Americans have this thought process, and they do see it as unfair, like the inclusion of transgender women in women's sports. They see it as unfair, which is why I think the frank and honest conversation by good faith actors, honest actors, needs to happen without people automatically assuming the worst of the other side or the people engaging in that good faith conversation. My problem with films like this isn't that, oh, I'm against them because they're conservatives and no. They serve as an obstacle to that kind of good faith, honest conversation that needs to be had.
Well, it seems incredibly likely that I have a different final policy view on this, but I would say that if you do want people to be able to play on the teams of their identity, first of all, I wouldn't be too worried about that polling. How many years has this even been a thing that people have been thinking about? And for every one of those years, the vast majority of the public conversation has been about how all these trans people are predators and they're gonna come for you. And it's been so overwhelmingly negative from so many people. I think it's honestly amazing that 1 out of 3 Americans are already of the position that people should be able to play on teams of their identity. So I'm not too worried about that. The poll about whether it's morally acceptable just means, do you think it's a good idea? And that number can change fast. We saw acceptance for same-sex marriage change very rapidly over the course of about a decade.
That's true. Yep.
So these are snapshots. I don't find them super surprising or super depressing considering what the conversation about these issues has been like. And honestly, if you want people to be able to play on the teams of their identity, having people who are so obviously driven by hatred and fear and just wanting to punch down and mock people, they tried that strategy on same-sex marriage and they tried to destroy, now they're on trans people, they tried to do that to gay people. Did that really help them? I think a lot of reasonable people are gonna be like, I don't wanna be on that side because they look really awful.
I know, but I think that there is a difference between, same-sex marriage and the issues surrounding, the questions and debates surrounding the transgender community. Because it's not just 2 people who love each other who want to get married and don't want to bother anyone. You get what I'm saying? Like that has no impact on any other part of society. But women did fight hard to establish women's sports. And so how do you do this in a way that is fair to women, but also inclusive and fair to transgender women as well? And that is not an easy question. It's not. I know people would like to think of it as black and white, but it's not.
Sure, and look, I think that if that conversation is to be had, it should be had with a very large percentage of trans people helping to drive that conversation.
And women too. I mean, women matter too. So both, okay? And that conversation can't just be one-sided where someone who has concerns gets beaten down with allegations of transphobia. No, I think that caring about the rights of 2 separate groups of people matters, and you have to balance those rights.
I would say I would also like if the people who are involved in that conversation actually gave 1 iota of a damn about women's sports to begin with. It's largely been commentators that don't care at all about women's sports and are only pretending to because they want to use it as a way to advance their transphobia. I also think that educating people about the current state of women's sports, how many trans athletes there actually are, I think it'd be great because I think so much of this conversation has been driven by conservatives who are lying about their impact on the sports overall and exaggerating.
But there's also a reason for that, because I think a lot of people on the left, and I'm not saying leftists, just broadly speaking on the left, are afraid to engage in that conversation from a good place, a good faith discussion. I keep repeating that because like that is genuinely what I think needs to happen. Because once they do, once they even try, they immediately get lumped in with conservatives who clearly are not interested in engaging in a good faith discussion. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would just point out that you can engage from a position of good faith and intellectual honesty in thinking that you should be able to play sports on the team of your identity. Like it's not only people who are critics of the inclusion that are operating from good faith, is all I'm saying.
No, hold on, let me just be abundantly clear. I don't think that the Daily Wire hosts are engaging in good faith at all, okay? But I do think that there is a very aggressive effort to shut down anyone who actually is coming at this from a place of empathy, from a place of wanting to balance the rights of two separate groups of people. Like, they immediately lose their minds about it and immediately lump you in with, Matt Walsh or whatever it is. I think that's unfair, and it just serves to shut down conversation, and it leads to more resentment. It doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah, that might be. Look, it's hard for me to say because the stakes are hypothetical for me. It's not a thing that affects me. I know
you're a guy. Of course it doesn't affect you.
100%, but I'm also a cis guy is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know, the people who are reacting very negatively might well be trans, and for them it might be a very important, like the stakes could not be higher in some of these cases.
Yeah, and the stakes are super high for like professional female athletes as well, women athletes as well. So I just don't understand why in this particular case, the rights of one group don't matter at all. They just need to shut up and not engage in any of this debate. And the other side, it's like, no, we just need to accept it. They're the only ones who are coming at this from good faith. I just disagree with that. And I think that the conversation needs to be had. And people like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, all those folks at the Daily Wire are making it more difficult for people to engage in that conversation.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.